government-supported competition. That competition was developed and run by Zenzic, the organisation that is leading the UK's strategy for automated vehicle testing and development, and coordinating activities across industry, government and academia. To explain the vision behind Zenzic's support of Convex and how it fits into the national and international context, I'm delighted to welcome the CEO of Zenzic, Dr. Daniel Ruiz. Daniel, please tell us more.
I will do if I can get myself on video. Yeah, and hopefully you can see my screen when I share it. Is there anything appearing for me? Can you see that, Nick? It should say why Convex. Excellent. In that case, thank you to Chordant for inviting me to speak here today. And thank you, Nick. And I'm sure someone listening will relay to Lord Grimstone my thanks on behalf of Zenzic and Convex and Chordant for that very stimulating perspective. I'm going to start with a look back to darker days, at least in terms of branding. Back in 2018, when Zenzic was still Meridian, and we were considering what we needed to do to deliver what is now called CAM Testbed UK. What we agreed was that we needed a well-balanced ecosystem in which to accelerate connected and self-driving systems and services to the point of deployment, and that's illustrated here. A key element of this clearly is data. Looking closer at this, we considered that the flow of data, or at least the potential flow, and I say potential because there has been, I think, a deep failure here. We all have to admit that. It's a common one. It's where the contributor and the beneficiary are not the same. And as an aside, why would you give anything away without any prospect of benefit? Or even worse, why would you give anything away if others, including your competitors, will benefit at your expense? And that giving away includes giving away data. So the primary challenge, as far as I'm concerned, is to encourage organizations to release and share their data. And the contention has to be that contributors, those who generate and capture the data, can indeed benefit if there is an appropriately designed marketplace in which they can trade, thereby unlocking the value stream and the potential for a return. The characteristics of the marketplace we were looking for in 2018 are summarized here. This is taken from the competition scope. We talked to people in Germany, Japan, the US and elsewhere, and it was apparent that there was nothing that really satisfied what we believed was needed. Projects like Pegasus in Germany were addressing aspects of data quality and data flow, but they also agreed it was not fitting the bill that we all needed. So what we wanted to do was to improve the generation and quality of the CAV-related data that could feed into business models. We wanted to deliver business processes that will enable effective and equitable data exchange across the ecosystem and improve the availability of data for any organization that wanted to develop their innovative solutions within the transport sector. And thirdly, we wanted to demonstrate how that higher quality, more accessible data could be used to deliver insights back to CAV users, CAV fleet operators, or road network owners. In other words, the people that generated the data in the first place. It has to be a cycle that feeds back. So we set this off running in the capable hands of Nick, Transport for West Midlands, Bosch, and their consortium, and building what is now Convex. And meanwhile, we carried on with complementary strategic work, which of course will benefit Convex. Work which includes the cyber feasibility studies and the geodata report, which highlights the need for industry-wide alignment on issues from common terminology and of course through to data hosting and other things. And we also carried out the work that has resulted in the roadmap to 2030, the UK's connected and automated mobility roadmap to 2030, which unsurprisingly reinforces the overwhelming need for a facility which enables us to unlock the potential of our data. All these things are now coming together with the launch of the last few testbeds within CAM Testbed UK. And for the avoidance of doubt, we describe CAM Testbed UK as comprising 6 testbeds. 5 of them are physical facilities, which will have interoperable digital twins, and 1 of them is the Convex data marketplace. And the aggregate is a highly complementary, highly collaborative and highly interoperable cluster of facilities, which is consequently going to take the world by storm. Indeed, something which is acknowledged by many of the organisations I've spoken to around the world is that each of the individual facilities in CAM Testbed UK is clearly world class. But more than that, the cluster stands out even further as a kind of collective. Which brings us back to the question of why Convex? Well, I spoke to Eman from Bosch. She put it very well by saying it is a significant step for the UK in becoming a world leader in the development of data-driven mobility services. And she went on to confirm that Bosch intends to use the data from Convex to unlock the potential of connected and automated mobility in regions, including the West Midlands. Now, my understanding is that Bosch are feeding both source data and processed information into Convex. And I'd encourage you all, and I'm really pleased with the attendance at this event, I'd encourage you all to encourage everyone in your networks to put Convex to the test. The opportunity for each of your organizations is substantial. And clearly, with every additional participant, the opportunity increases exponentially. So finally, why Convex again? Answer: because there is a gap in the market that everyone says needs filling. I'm really delighted that Convex has risen to that challenge, and I wish the Convex team and all of you the best of luck in exploiting it. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that overview, Daniel. So I mentioned my history with Convex, but let's go back to 2018 to describe how the concept for a mobility data exchange came together. As I mentioned, the competition for a connected vehicle data exchange was launched by Zenzic, as Daniel as well described, in partnership with CCAV, the UK's Centre for Connected and Autonomous Vehicles, identifying that the ability to aggregate, analyse and share data from connected and automated vehicles might be a key enabler for the industry. In response, the Convex project came together, initially led by me at Bosch, to support Bosch's interests in data-led mobility business. The consortium was joined by the Integrated Transport Authority, Transport for West Midlands, wanting to learn how they can share transport data to improve the quality and efficiency of transport services. Jaguar Land Rover participated, seeking to support R&D activities on how their vehicles can engage with third-party data platforms. WMG at the University of Warwick joined the consortium with Convex as an integral part of their extensive automotive research activities. And the consortium was completed by 3 innovation partners, Immense, Synaptive and Valoran, more from whom we will be hearing later. On winning the competition, government funding was matched by industry partners to create an £8 million project led by Transport for West Midlands. And a critical first task was to recruit a software platform provider. Through an open procurement process, Chordant were awarded with this role. And over the last 18 months, the consortium has been working very hard under understandably very challenging conditions to develop Convex, establishing the platform, developing protocols for exchange of data between data providers and data consumers, and delivering those use case demonstrations by the innovation partners. Now, with its commercial launch, the responsibility for Convex shifts to Chordant as the owner and operator of the platform. From my work at TRL, Bosch, and working with many transport authorities, I recognize the critical importance of having a clear vision for the mobility system you want to create. Chordant are developing Convex with a view that data sharing should support a transport system that is safer, cleaner, and better, and that by enabling access to a range of previously inaccessible data sets, organizations can accelerate their progress towards that vision. And which organizations will Convex help on this journey? Well, on this slide, we can see 3 key sectors that the Convex platform is uniquely seeking to support: mobility service providers, automotive OEMs, and transport infrastructure owners and operators. Unlike other platforms, I think there is a recognition here that there's huge value in bringing these spheres together and sharing mobility data across domains to generate new insights. And it's interesting, I think if we go back certainly 10 years, there was very little overlap between these circles. Now with Convex as a long-term partner for data exchange, the opportunity exists to explore new innovations, system validation, product development, and transport analyses, all of which can contribute to delivering that vision for safer, cleaner, and better mobility. So now we get to see some examples of how Convex can deliver on the vision with 3 5-minute demonstration videos from the innovation partners mentioned earlier, Immense, Synaptive, and Valoran, where they will illustrate how data shared via Convex powers their innovations.
Good morning. My name is Christina Irving, and I am the Solutions Delivery Manager here at Ments. Ments is a software company which specialises in simulation as a service. We have created a software platform that allows users to test different scenarios for fleets and infrastructures and understand the impact on services, network performance, economy, and environment. Accessibility is at the core of everything we do. We have designed the platform to be simple to use and simple to apply to other areas. Above all, we want to put simulation at the heart of decision-making for mobility, saving time and providing value for money. Our Ments are one of the innovation SMEs taking part in Convex as a test demonstrator. We have been developing the technology to take advantage of the rich datasets made available through Convex and demonstrating results through a series of use cases. The tech we have created is truly scalable and applicable not only to Testbed UK, but beyond. We will highlight some of the use cases in the following video, considering such things as development of CAM services and also the deployment of EV infrastructure. Please do reach out to us here at Ments if you would like to know more. And lastly, thanks for listening and enjoy.
Hello, I'm Matt Lewis, the CEO of Synaptive. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Synaptive and talk about our role within the Convex consortium. I'm going to demo the insights that we built based on the data within Convex and show how we're making these insights available within the platform itself. So to kick things off, Synaptive, we are a connected car startup, and we specialize in transforming data from vehicles into smart city insights. There is a rapidly growing market where entities such as local governments, along with their many service providers, are able to extract operational efficiencies by taking advantage of these smart city insights. And these are insights that are enabled by data from connected transportation, such as connected vehicles. Synaptive brought to the consortium our expertise in transforming car data into an assessment of the road pavement surface. And our role within the consortium has really allowed us to dramatically expand our capability in this area. Our approach leverages a wide range of signals from the vehicle, including high-frequency G-force information. We've built a suite of sophisticated machine learning algorithms to transform this complex set of data into an accurate assessment of road conditions. And this is what helps road authorities make operational decisions about the repair and maintenance of their road infrastructure. When it comes to our platform, we have an agnostic approach to data sourcing. We ingest data from embedded systems on the vehicle, from telematics loggers, and of course through aggregation and data exchange partners like Convex. Data is ingested into our platform, it's cleaned, it's normalized, it then flows into our analytics framework. And this is where we apply our smart city algorithms, where the output from these analytics is then made available through our connected mobility API. Our road quality insights are fed back into Convex, and this is where they are available for third-party consumers. We envisage that some of our customers will extract our insights via Convex to integrate with their own systems, such as their own asset management systems. Others will prefer to engage with our insights more interactively, and this is where our dashboard comes in, and I'll jump over to this now for a very quick intro. So this is our director dashboard. It is based on a layering concept with each of our individual insights, so the road roughness, defects, humps, and journey density, treated as layers so that it can be viewed separately or merged together for a more detailed interpretation. So Coventry was one of our local authority partners throughout the Convex project, so let's start off there. You can see that I have the defect layer activated, so we're looking at defects on the road, such as potholes, and a minimum detection count of 5. And so what this means is that we're only looking at defects that have had at least 5 vehicle interventions or observations, and that helps with the confidence level. So if we zoom in to reveal the individual location pins of each defect, if we hover over each pin, we can actually see metadata for each of the defects. So this defect here is based on 32 individual detections and was last observed last month. This one here is 55 detections and was last observed just a few weeks ago. So let's zoom in on that one. Clicking on the pin reveals the individual detections. These are the detections that triggered our analytics to identify and position it within the cluster and label it as a defect. And the metadata for each detection point reveals the date it was detected. There's also an indication of the impact force generated, and this provides an indication of the severity of the defect itself. Sometimes Google Street View, if it's up to date, can be useful in validating our observations. So we can jump out of the dashboard and into Google Street View using that link. And so if we just choose the most recent date here, which is November, so just a few months ago, and turn around, we can see the section of road here with all the damage which our system was able to detect. So that's it from me. Feel free to reach out to learn more about our solution, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Valoran has partnered with Convex to make real-time data available to vehicles. When entering a Valoran-enabled road, Drivers can subscribe to a direct safety feed through the Convex platform. This includes risk alerts, lane-level traffic flow, and road surface conditions. So, for example, if there is a vehicle ahead that slows down for some reason and comes to a full stop on the left lane, the system would detect it immediately before becoming visible to the approaching drivers. The system instantly sends a stopped vehicle alert to the response services and to the approaching vehicles. The alert displays the type of hazard, the distance from it, recommended travel route and speed. So you can avoid dangerous situations easily and enjoy a safe, risk-free ride.
Over the past year, Valorant has worked with the Convex consortium to enable direct communication between infrastructure and connected vehicles. We believe that the future of mobility is a collaborative one, where every player and contributor play to their strengths to make the entire transport ecosystem safer, more efficient, and greener. The strengths that road-based data bring are that of presence, resilience, and low latency. Road-based data is collected in all weather conditions. Road-based data is collected regardless of whether you have a vehicle there or not. And road-based data is collected from the entire network, not just in the specific vicinity of a vehicle. That is why, within the consortium, we partnered with Jaguar Land Rover to identify some of the use cases where road-based data is best able to serve and support autonomous vehicles. Over the past year, we worked to identify these use cases, developing sensing capabilities to enable them, and set up infrastructure to connect roads directly with vehicles. Last week, we trialed some of these capabilities, such as stop vehicle detection and alert at Westcott Business Park, where we have a live trial site. In a future of autonomous vehicles, we believe that roads will support these machines to expand their ODD, making our journeys safer and more pleasant. Check out another example of how this could look like in the future. Thank you.
Valorant has partnered with Convex to make real-time data available to vehicles. When entering a Valorant-enabled road, drivers can subscribe to a direct safety feed through the Convex platform. This includes risk alerts, road surface conditions, and lane-level traffic flow. So, for example, when merging onto a highway under poor visibility conditions, vehicles can expect many challenges and risks. Here, Valorant's system provides vital visibility to help guide vehicles through the transition. The system shares real-time vehicle movement on the designated lane and shares the recommended speed of approach and optimal time for merging. So you can handle dangerous, complex situations easily and enjoy a safe, risk-free ride.
Fantastic demonstrations there, showing how data sharing can support city-scale simulations, connected vehicle applications, and connected infrastructure innovation. And apologies if some of you weren't able to see Daniel's slides earlier. Rest assured, the slides and videos will be available after the end of the event today. So where does Convex go from here? Well, the perfect person to help us answer this question is the Senior Vice President of Product at Chordant, Ash Wheeler. Now, Ash, I know you were tracking this project right from the very beginning, but tell us, what does the future now hold for Convex under Chordant's stewardship?
Well, thank you, Nick. One moment while I sort out my video. There we go. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Nick, and good morning, everyone. I would like to spend the next 15 minutes exploring what is Convex, what is it in more detail, and to look at some of the solutions that we've been creating with partners. So when we think about Convex, Convex is a set of capabilities for exposing, transforming, and sharing dynamic mobility data. And with those capabilities, we operate now a range of services that connect data providers with data consumers. And from those services, we've developed a number of solutions that solve specific problems faced by road authorities, by vehicle OEMs, and by those organizations wanting to bring connected and autonomous mobility services to fruition. So if we look at the capabilities of Convex, as has been said earlier, Convex is built around a software platform that has a number of capabilities for exposing, transforming, and sharing data, capabilities for organizing data into data sets and controlling the sharing of who can see those. There are capabilities for transforming that data in real time and real-time APIs and a set of functions for managing security. And all of this operates in the cloud. And we have a team of people now keeping this platform healthy and alive and operating, and a roadmap of enhancements planned as we go forward. With this underlying capability then, we operate the Convex Mobility Data Exchange, which is hosted at convexglobal.io. I'm going to show some examples from there in just a moment. And from that, we've developed so far 4 different solution areas which address specific problems. So Mobility Data Hub, solutions around V2X and V2X services, solutions for connected vehicles, and solutions to help organizations test, validate, and bring to market new CAM services. And I'll talk through each one of those as well. First, let's look at convexglobal.io. So at the Mobility Data Exchange portal, we're fundamentally connecting organizations who provide data with organizations who want to consume that. As was mentioned earlier, Convex is a virtual facility. We don't generate data ourselves, we don't deploy hardware, but we work in a number of ways to connect these organizations together in different ways. So in this first example, a data provider may be streaming real-time data to us, and we can enable one individual consumer to privately access that data in real time. In this second example, a different provider can provide data that we can broadcast and make available to a number or all organizations who are interested in that. And in this third example, Convex can process data from a number of sources to generate an output that's required by 2 specific consumers. We do this through a number of mechanisms. In the Mobility Data Exchange, we host and run a number of dataset catalogs, as well as publishing and sharing controls, because the philosophy behind the way Convex works is that data providers are the owners of their data, and they remain the owner of their data. So it's up to them what licensing terms consumers should have to agree to use their data, and if appropriate, what pricing they would like to apply around their data. Convex operates a number of real-time APIs to effect all of this data movement, as well as being able to transform data as it's flowing through the platform to meet the specific needs that consumers will have. And finally, there are a set of insight reports allowing providers and consumers to understand what data is being consumed and by whom, as well as plug-in tools for connecting with BI, business intelligence tools such as Power BI. So let me just bring in the Convex Data Exchange portal at this point and just show you a couple of ways in which this works. So you can see we're hosted here at convexglobal.io, and I can sign in to the service. And when I do, what's first displayed is a catalogue of data sets. You can see here, this is the shared with all catalogue. So these data sets, which in this case belong to Transport for West Midlands, all of these are publicly shared. There's no restrictions, and you can browse through and see the different data that is available. So if I just pick a particular data set, this is live. We can see this particular Birmingham variable message signs data set was updated only 3 minutes ago. And clicking into that reveals a lot more information about this particular data set. We have a set of information here to help any consumer to understand what this data set is about and how to interpret the information. There are links through to the data itself, both links to the streaming API where this data is coming in and being sort of available to consumers in real time, as well as a historical archive of what this particular data set has been showing over time. And of course, in order to accept and work with this particular data, any consumer has to accept the licensing terms that, in this case, the owner, being Transport for West Midlands, has put in front of their data. So as well as a collection of data sets that are shared with all and openly available for any organization to consume who has access to the site, there are also another area of more privately shared data sets. These are data sets where organizations wish to use the portal, but only selectively reveal those to the specific destination customers they want to share with. And we have in here a number of data sets from different organizations that we're working with in a more private way. Jaguar Land Rover, Bosch are just some of the examples here. Okay, so that's a very brief overview of the data exchange and at a high level how that works. What I want to do next is to walk through the different different solutions that Convex has been working with a range of partners to bring forward. And let's look first at the Mobility Data Hub. So this is an area we've developed that specifically helps transport authorities and road authorities who are increasingly dealing with a range of digital information about roads. So the place we've started here is to simply bring together all of the different live dynamic data that comes from multiple different systems that are sensoring and monitoring road networks. Often these are operated by different organizations. The data is in different formats, and we can connect into these different systems and consolidate and harmonize that data in Convex into a family of data sets. You saw one example of that already, as I showed you the variable message sign data that was streaming in from the West Midlands systems. To complement that, we can then also bring in data from third-party systems that aren't necessarily owned and operated by the transport authorities. So we have good relationships now and integrations with mobile network operators who can provide data on population movements, so origins and destinations of people as they move around and where they dwell based on the movements of mobile phones. We worked with a couple of the up and rising e-scooter providers who also provide us with trip and event data live about the locations and anonymous journeys made by hired e-scooters. And we're really pleased to have recently kicked off a project with Mobileye. Mobileye representative will be joining the panel discussion later. Mobileye have a set of clever technologies that take video data from cameras mounted in vehicles and process that data to understand what the road assets conditions are. And we are working now with that Mobileye data to unlock road asset monitoring in real time. So having brought in this data enables a road authority to react, monitor, manage the road network better, but we can go one step further with that and then exchange and integrate that data into a number of schemes and schemes and systems that allow road operators to do more, to predict, to prevent, to control. So in the video you saw earlier from Immense operate models and simulations, which can now be calibrated by the data from road operator systems. So those models are accurate. Having brought a lot of this data into one place makes it a lot easier to now measure the impact of modal shift and mobility hub schemes that are seeking to nudge people's transport choices to be more sustainable and more environmentally friendly. As these schemes are deployed, this data helps us to measure and model those changes. And a really exciting area that I'm going to talk about now is V2X. So this data is the baseline for delivering V2X services into vehicles. We've been working on this with Transport for West Midlands for some time now, and we have over 20 live dynamic data sets giving this real-time picture of road network activities in the West Midlands. Okay, next I wanted to touch on V2X, which is a really exciting area. V2X means a range of things to a range of people. It's a collection of standards and operating practices for enabling vehicles to communicate with each other, with infrastructure. And the specific area where Convex is working is in V2I and I2V. So vehicles communicating with infrastructure and infrastructure sending information to vehicles. To make this work, we already have integrations with road network operator systems that can tell us about dynamic speed limits on the strategic road network, lane closure information, timings of traffic signals, roadworks, and so on. And this information is brought in and processed by Convex in such a way that it can be delivered out to vehicles in a couple of different ways. The first that's already operating in the West Midlands is an integration we've done with Siemens roadside units that pushes data out to passing vehicles that are local to each roadside unit. And we're now working with a mobile network operator to do this over cellular networks, which has a far more ubiquitous coverage in the UK and internationally. We'll be making a quite exciting announcement about this next month with the network operator we're working with. Of course, the same can happen in the reverse direction. So these systems we're integrating with also collect data from suitably enabled cars about their travel direction, speed, and other incidents and events. And we can bring that back and present that to the road network operators to give them a more real-time view of traffic activity. And a third way that we can present this infrastructure information to the eyeballs of drivers is through wayfinders. And we're just exploring now how best to integrate with the range of different organizations that provide these wayfinding services. The last thing to say is of course that it's not only data from road network operators that is interesting and relevant for connected vehicles. So we're pleased that the Met Office are now working with us, and in the next week or two, their system for providing us with highly accurate road surface environmental condition, both nowcast and forecast data, that'll be going live to allow us to integrate weather and other environmental data into these services. If you want to know more about this, come and talk to us. We've got some operating services already coming on stream through our work with the MFM testbed in the West Midlands. Okay, well, third area to touch on now is connected vehicle solutions, and we're really excited that Jaguar Land Rover has been part of this Convex initiative. Working with JLR has allowed us to connect to their back-end systems, which are collecting data from JLR vehicles. And the work we've specifically done with them is to look to expose some much richer sets of data from these vehicles that aren't normally available through standard production interfaces, to allow JLR to explore what kind of new data would be relevant to enable the kind of outcomes JLR wants from its connected vehicle capabilities, sharing that data through Convex with selected partners. And again, you saw in Synaptive's video earlier an example of that. So Convex is enabling Jaguar Land Rover to securely and anonymously share specific rich vehicle data generated by R&D fleets with these selected partners. Road surface condition insights was one of those areas. We've also been looking at a lot of the rich data from the electric vehicle powertrain and how that can enable insights and make road activities safer for all road users. And finally, the last area, CAM services, is very important. So if we think about what Zenzic has set out to achieve in creating a harmonized set of facilities that can enable new CAM services to come through, we've developed this capability to bring together data from many systems that give us insights about what's happening in one particular place, so-called scene. And so Convex supports this scene view of data that can enable vehicles that are about to undergo tests to have a better, accurate, real-time understanding of the operational environment in which they're traveling. This supports safety case development, as well as can be useful for operating live services where vehicles need to know the conditions that they're going into in the road ahead. Well, that was a brief walkthrough of Convex, its capabilities, its services, and the solutions that we're building, built with support from a great consortium. And if you want to know more, please do get in touch. Now I will hand back to Nick. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ash. And lots of great questions coming in via the Q&A, and we'll get to those in the panel session. So we've had a taste of what the future might hold for Convex, but now it's time to get those perspectives on data sharing in our panel session. And remember, I will be trying to monitor the Q&A, so do please submit your questions there. For the panel, I'm joined by 6 insightful luminaries from the mobility sector. And I know we're on a tight schedule, so I'd like to ask each of you on the panel to give a brief 1-minute introduction, saying who you are, where you're from, and then addressing my first question, which is, how does data help you to develop the future of mobility today? Maybe if we start with Darren.
Hi, hello all. My name's Darren Capes. I'm ITS policy lead at the Department for Transport, and my particular area of interest is supporting local authorities to adopt new technologies and ensuring that the 152 local authorities across England are equipped and ready and understand the business cases and uses and technologies around many of the things we've heard of this morning, and how we get those authorities to work together. So I'm really pleased to be part of this today, because I think Convex is a really important part of that overall policy drive.
And John, if we go to you next.
Thanks, Nick. So I'm John Fox. I work at Warwick Manufacturing Group and look after the Midlands Future Mobility CAM testbed, which is also one of the Zenzic testbeds. In terms of how data is helping our organisation, it's been quite interesting actually. Through MFM, we've surfaced quite a lot of data around our campus actually, which is a good example. There's a massive amount of data available that has never been put together. An example would be around people's movements within our campus. We've got pre-COVID, about 10,000 people every day that come onto and off the campus, but we have no idea how they move around once they're there. And through some e-scooter trials and through some work getting data from JLR vehicles, it's become quite apparent how people are actually moving during the day, and it's helping us to plan a completely different campus for the future. Additionally, a lot of stuff around EV charging and energy. So crashing two sectors together, the future of mobility is clearly zero emissions, and we've got a vast amount of EV charging and power generation on our campus. And those two data sets have never been put together until very recently. What you realize is that actually we'll be providing providing energy to the grid at times when actually we're not charging electric vehicles. And as you can imagine, the opposite is true. We'll sometimes fire up a gas turbine, which is a high carbon generation source on campus, to meet the demand of the vehicles, because those two data sets haven't been together. So yeah, I mean, data obviously it multiplies with the more sets that you layer on top of each other. And for us around the campus, it's been quite illuminating over the last sort of 12 months.
Brilliant. Thanks, John. Next, we go to Alex.
Hi, so my name's Alex. I lead the data services activity for Mobileye. We came to the world of data for many years now in an attempt to expand what we call ODD, so the operational driving sphere. And in essence, we use data to increase the level of safety and to provide newer services to the drivers of the vehicles to which we supply. And moving forward down the road, we were able to see that not only we can use that data to basically enable advanced driving functionalities globally, and that is a challenge. The challenge is not AV as a science project, but sort of AV everywhere. We're also seeing the very clear linkage between where we drive and how that infrastructure looks like. So we and the road operator, we sort of shared the same common interest, the same domain. And when we are able to identify safety prone areas, road damages, faded lane markings, asset deficiencies, this is definitely assets and information that we want to be sharing with the rest of the ecosystem, and Convex is a great way of doing that. So thank you for the opportunity.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. Next, Chris, come to you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Lane. I'm Head of Transport Innovation for Transport for West Midlands. We're part of the West Midlands Combined Authority. We're all about really creating a region of healthier, happier people. At the same time, making sure that we continue to increase the prosperity of the West Midlands. And again, I think as we heard, first thing, build back really after the real challenges that COVID has presented us. But we see data as fundamental, both historic data and the base information that we have. So what we're really looking at is how can we convert that physical infrastructure and those physical services into digital services and digital information. So really seeing data as an enabler of new mobility services and new opportunities to serve the people of the West Midlands and get them moving in a smooth way. We saw a gap really in this area, which is why we became involved with Convex. And we really think that Convex fixed that gap really well. and has enabled the public sector and the private sector to work together and explore some new concepts and new ideas.
Great, thanks, Chris. Paul, TRL.
Hi, Nick. I'm Paul Campion, CEO of TRL. TRL has been working on the future of transport for 90 years now, and recently, in the last few years, invested in the Smart Mobility Living Lab, which is the London urban testbed in the CAM testbed UK family. So really feel grateful and privileged to be here to welcome Convex to the family. Why data? Well, you know, the challenges that transport have got are absolutely foundational and fundamental. In particular, the transition to net zero is a non-negotiable deadline that we all have to meet. And the options that the use of data can enable, in my view, is one of the most powerful ways that we can address that. It enables us to take a system view. It enables us to understand and optimize each individual journey. I mean, we've already seen what, a dozen different use cases that can be enabled by this assembly of data. There's probably a literally infinite number of other use cases. So this is the single universally most important thing that we can apply to deal with the challenges that transport's got to face.
Brilliant, thanks, Paul. And then lastly, Mika from Chordant.
Hi, I'm Mika, Rasinkangas, president of Chordant. Just thinking of listening to all these colleagues, and what more can I say after all this? But let me just, so from Chordant perspective, obviously data is essential and at the heart of everything we do. And we do believe that there's a lot of value that can be derived from data-driven services and solutions, some of which we have seen today. Then again, data is also really complicated in a lot of different levels. One hand, you can look at technical complexities that come from simply starting accessing the right data at the right time as data resides in different systems. Then you can also think of things like data processing, data manipulations, as data has to be gathered in the right shape and form for the users of the data. Then you have a whole host of non-technical issues. You have, let's call them business issues. You can think about data licenses, you can think about business models and so forth. Yet then again, there are also all sorts of operational issues when typically different entities come together in these different data-driven solutions. Be it providers of different kinds of data sets to come up with the optimal outcomes and so forth. Now, all these complexities, be it technical, operational, business complexities, this is really where we sit as Chordant, and the Convex mobility data exchange, that's our answer to this complexity.
Brilliant, thanks, Mika. Well, you may have sensed in the introductions, we've set this panel up with two representatives from the public sector, Darren and Chris, two from the research sector, Paul and John, and two more from the commercial side, Alex and Mika. And so I was wondering, kind of, what does each sector need from the other two in order to progress? So maybe if we start with Darren and Chris, what would you see as needing from research and from the commercial sector to progress your own aims?
Okay, I'll go first then. I think my interest is really around standardization and around open platforms and open data. I think obviously as government we don't really buy the technology, we don't really buy the data. Our job is to set the policies and ensure that they are delivered, and in doing that we are doing a lot of work at the moment on establishing open standards for different parts of transport, for different elements that we are working internationally around standards. We're working locally in the UK to build standards for areas such as traffic regulation orders, smart parking, and basically building a full ecosystem of open standards to allow data to flow more easily. And that really is our challenge to industry and research is how do we do this in an open way? How do we ensure that the public sector investment is well used? We don't find people buying Betamax in the time of VHS. We work in open ways to open standards. And leading on from that, how do we turn technology into use cases and business cases? How do we get to a point where the public sector can understand the value in a way that their senior management, their politicians, the public can understand? And this is very much about taking technology, about taking data, about taking the systems that we've seen today, and thinking about that in terms of what it can do for the public sector. I think we've seen some demonstration of that today, particularly the demonstration that Synaptic showed earlier, which was about taking some very complex systems, some very complex sensing technology, some very complex data collation and data analysis tools, and building systems that allow local authorities simply to fix the roads more effectively and more cheaply. That really is the key. How do we move from the very technical, the very complex, the very important work that the private sector, the researchers are doing? How do we convert that, and how do we translate that into use cases and business cases that the public sector can understand and build investment opportunities around?
And Chris, probably lots in common with what Darren's just said. Is there anything you'd add to that? I know there's been some interest in the Q&A with the playbook, the Transport for West Midlands playbook. Maybe you can expand a little on that.
I think what I would say is that we, as the West Midlands, we cannot solve all these problems ourselves. You know, we do need help from the private sector. We need help from innovators and technologists. We need help from researchers and academics. And I think actually for a long time, the challenge has been that people think they can solve it themselves. But I think we really have learned that without this sort of project, with SMEs and innovators to big technology and OEM companies, you can't solve this problem. And actually, it's our problem. We all travel, whether that's in a car or on public transport. So we're trying to solve the problem for real people. And Darren will know that we've worked really closely with DFT and other things to try and share our data. And the playbook came out of that. How do we make this data open, knowing that by giving that data out to other people, they can probably do things with it that we can't. They can find opportunities that we can't. So we think Convex is a real opportunity to create a platform and a place where those parties can meet, and we can create a real synergy, public, private, academic, working together to create something new, and things that we may not have thought of that will then help everybody, including ourselves, provide a better transport service.
Brilliant, thanks, Chris. So, and Alex, from Mobileye's perspective, what do you seek from the public sector and from research to help progress your aims?
So I think, and not only Mobileye, but the ecosystem players have made a lot of data available in a very short time. Because I mean, in essence, this is what vehicle data does. It bridges time and place. And so I think what would be most interesting for all of us is really to people start, dreaming, start thinking of what could I do if I had this data, because it's there. It takes us as human beings, not only as an industry, some time to sort of accept change, right? Sometimes it happens, and then there's this aha moment that has, that has the potential of, just go there and fix the roads. You need to have that aha moment that, oh my God, I can actually do that. So we're seeing more and more, both from the public sector and from researchers, being able to better understand the data and to translate that into how they today understand things, right? Because we can only say if we can see that, for example, lane work that is causing congestion or it's causing road fatalities. We don't know what retroreflectivity is, but in the end, this is the same thing. And so basically just that aha moment, I think we're all trying to find ways to make that aha moment faster and sooner, and definitely more people having visibility on what is available is a very important step towards getting to that goal.
Perfect. Thank you. So, Mika, how are you providing those aha moments? What do you need from the other sectors to generate those aha moments?
I think that well, let me actually take a step back from there. So obviously everyone has their own strategies, their own priorities, what people want to achieve, and I think people need to think about the potential that data can bring to all those strategies. That how we can do new things, how we can do things better, but like. Don't spend forever in perfecting that strategy, because by that time the train is already gone and things have moved on. But like experiment, try things out, kind of accept that there will be failures on some of the things that you are trying out, but just kind of get on the journey. I think that would be my message.
Perfect, and that's a perfect link actually into John and Paul. Experimentation, trying these things out. I'm sure as MFM and the Smart Mobility Living Lab, this is exactly what you want to see. So what are you seeking from the private sector and from the public sector to help improve the future of transport? So maybe John first.
Okay, thanks, Nick. I think it's important to say, from a research perspective, obviously we're not for profit, actually a registered charity, and sounds like banging the begging bowl, but obviously investment is crucial. We can't exploit having spent money to sort of earn it back in the future, and so being involved in projects, that have got some, I would say, some element of sort of longevity to them is really important. We have capable people and facilities, but we need to maintain that capability, and so partnerships with commercial businesses are really fruitful because it allows the academic institutions to actually build capability to serve that need with some certainty of sort of onward work, if you like. So we've been very successful with JLR in the past, for example, at WMG, which has allowed us to specifically sort of hire and maintain and build capability to support their needs. So we'd be really keen to see more partnerships on these things, so that we can sustain those teams. I think ultimately, additionally, I'd say looking at involving academia in future standards and solutions as well. I think the CAV-PASS program has been a really, really good example of that. WMG in various forms, particularly with Siddhartha Kaskier's work, of again, built capability to support that program. And I think it's been very, very valuable. So it provides that academic rigor and expertise to make sure that then the commercial exploitation is done in the best way possible. And don't forget, of course, we're being not-for-profit means that we're not in any way kind of trying to come to a specific conclusion, which is valuable and shouldn't be overlooked.
Yeah, that independence is so important. Paul, from your perspective.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with anything anyone said. A lot of what I would have said has been covered, which I will be grateful for. Look, a couple of thoughts. The public sector has got a couple of really important roles here. It's a regulator and it's an authority. It is responsible for providing services. So I note in one of the questions, a question about mobility as a service, that's fundamentally a regional authority type of initiative. So I think what we need from the public sector is some pace, some agility, and some imagination here. Regulation creates markets. It defines the space within which people can make money. So it's intensely important then that job of regulation in this evolving, changing world has got to focus on how do we want people to be able to make themselves rich? What are the things that society needs that we want to incent the private sector to do for us? And really, I think probably to echo John, look to the commercial world. What do we want? We want them to buy more research, which is a sort of a flippant thing to say, but it's not really intended to be flippant. Data is only as valuable as the use that gets made of it. Research is only valuable if it can create new and better ways of doing things. So, we need the entire ecosystem to recognize that we're a moment of inflection here. Transport has to change extremely rapidly to develop the sort of society we want, to build back better, to deliver net zero. All of these really, really important outcomes cannot be done by building a better yesterday. We've got to imagine a different tomorrow. And so we need to work in different ways. If we work the ways we have done before, we will get what we got before. And so commerce needs to be talking to the public sector, needs to be talking to research to build that that better tomorrow at pace.
Great, thanks, Paul. Now, one of the questions that's cropped up numerous times in the Q&A concerns kind of security, privacy, even the ethical aspects of data sharing. Maybe starting with you, Darren, how do you see the importance of those topics, and how can they be achieved? How can we share data, but in ways that is trustworthy?
Well, I think they're extremely important. I think obviously they're important because there are some very strong legal requirements here around how we deal with data. They're also important in terms of public confidence, in terms of confidence of users that they want to participate in systems like this. I think it's very important. I think government clearly has a role in setting out the legislative framework and ensuring that the right legislation is in place, that the right opportunities are in place. But again, I think this is a conversation that we need to have all in the same room. I think how we do research, how we build systems, ensuring that researchers and developers have the right expectation and understand the legislative framework they work within. Understanding there's a conversation that ensures that government is thinking about the right legislation in the future, and to use Paul's analogy about trying to build a better future rather than a better past, ensuring that we move the frameworks forward to deal with this. And I think some of the issues that we will throw up through projects like Convex, through work around CAM and new vehicle technologies, will be very challenging. They will challenge the way we think about data. They will challenge the way that the existing structures work. And we need to be thinking about these kind of things up front. At the same time we're developing the technology, we need to be ensuring that the legislative landscape, the standards landscape is ready to deal with those challenges.
And Mika, at a very practical level, can you tell us a bit about the security protocols that are built into Convex, ensuring that data is shared but securely?
Yeah, there's multiple layers there in terms of data security and data privacy, starting simply from access rights, who can access what, and that's the angle that just like to kind of continue from what Darren was saying. Data sharing in itself, it doesn't mean that you put everything out there on an open domain. Data sharing can mean that actually in a simplest form of it, you have a multitude of different systems that generate all sorts of data that you bring together, but only for your own use. Then the next level would be only on the use of your trusted partners. Doesn't mean that you would share absolutely everything out there. You can share selectively the particular data sets that you want to share with your partners. And then of course there's the ultimate or kind of a most open level where you can make data available for any and all users. Yet then again, even that doesn't come as a no rules out there. But like using our services, there are certain terms, certain things that you have to agree with, that if you go and use data through the service. So there's a lot of different layers how things can be secured and ensured that the data is used the right way. Some of them are technical means, some of them are legal means.
Great, thanks, Mika. Now, I mean, the original motivation behind the competition that resulted in Convex was around connecting data for connected and automated vehicles. So, but I think it's right that the scope has broadened to be mobility data, including public transport services, including origin destination data. But Alex, I wondered about how you saw a future with automated driving and the role of data sharing in giving assurance around safety and maybe even improving the guidance of automated vehicles.
So definitely, as this technology is progressing, we see different use cases, different applications to this. As Paul said, if regulation is the definition where people can do business and how they can make money, we see a lot of advanced driving capabilities, which and I'd say this, we started this commercially, we started this activity for commercial purposes, but we see growing interest from regulation in the UK and in EMEA in general that has truly acknowledged the safety potential and contribution of data to services provided to drivers, be that intelligent speed assist and higher requirements around that. And we see more and more connected services embarking via Euro NCAP. So we expect to see more and more connected vehicles driving on our roads. And in this regard, privacy is a very big issue, and it is even before sharing that data, just collecting it is a very big challenge in ensuring what you collect, but also what you leave between the driver and the system that he's using, and that is in the end designated to protect him and him alone. And so there is always a balance when we design those systems, when automakers come and have that conversation. So this is something that is very highly regarded industry-wide, and we assume regulation would acknowledge that as well, because of really the very big contribution that is available here.
Great, and Paul, John, Chris, you each represent organizations that have been at the heart of many of the flagship automated driving projects. Do you see a role for Convex in a future with automated vehicles? Maybe Paul first.
Absolutely, it'll be fundamental. I think, though, that we need to recognize that as technology moves on, we learn. And one of the things I think that we've learned over the last few years is that our initial idea of what an automated vehicle might look like was perhaps naive. I think there are much wider applications of automation and potentially more interesting ones than the robot taxi, which probably had been our idea 5 years ago. But equally, the C in CAM, the connectivity, is at least as important, and probably more important in the short term than the A. The A will become increasingly important, but we've already seen this morning. It's not just about personal cars. It isn't just even about freight. There's a whole set of micromobility solutions, active travel solutions. Look, when I walk out the door, I'm connected, and most of us are. So thinking about the movement of a broad variety of things, operating in a broad variety of ways, I think is the way to the better future. And I cannot conceive of how we can do that without the sort of data interchange that Convex is able to deliver.
Yeah, John, anything to add to that?
I'd completely echo what Paul said there. I mean, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people got carried away with the autonomous side and forgot the connected side. And actually, I think we're all beginning to realize that it's connected first. I mean, if you think about features of value to customers and consumers, nobody likes a flat tire. No one likes driving around for a parking space. All of these things could be dealt with by autonomous vehicles, but additionally providing more context information, more data to the driver will also alleviate a lot of these issues. The Valoran example is a really nice example. You can't do that without data. It's absolutely surfacing information that's either out there or easily accessible and providing it to people to make more informed decisions. So for me, that it's a spectrum, and the roadmap to autonomous vehicles involves all of this data being provided to existing drivers first. So absolutely essential, pivotal to have data if we're going to get to automated vehicles in the future.
Thanks, John. So slightly changing angle. Chris, one of the questions that's come in has been about how connectivity might enable more sustainable journeys. We've talked a lot about sort of motorized transport, but I'm sure in TfWM's priorities, that shift to active travel and sustainable travel is right up there. So how does data sharing help enable those that more sustainable transportation vision?
So really within the West Midlands, we're doing a lot of work on understanding behaviour and what will help people make the right decision to take a sustainable journey. One of the fundamental requirements for that is to know about the transport network, to know what's on offer, to know about the modes. So the data and how the network is operating is really fundamentally important. One of the pieces of research we found was that people don't want to know, say, when a vehicle's going to arrive. If you talk about a bus or a train, they actually want to know when they're going to get there. And these are the types of systems that we need to put in place. So very much thinking about the individual's journey, the individual's choices, and taking data from the public sector in terms of the network and how it's operating, from the private sector in terms of how the vehicles are operating, the environment, about the weather. The weather does make a big difference to the way people travel, and bringing that all together allows people to have a choice. We're doing a lot of work on thinking on things like mobility as a service, developing multimodal options and choices for travel. But again, it's how do we utilize this data to support that and to grow that?
Now, Mika, there's been a lot of engagement, lots of interest in Convex, but is there any sector or area of data that you think has been a little bit slow to come to the party? Is there organizations or sectors you think you'd really like to engage with via Convex?
Oh, put somebody on the spot, right? That's a tricky thing to question because or to answer, because we see that a lot of these things proceed in like seesaw way, that there's like one part of the ecosystem that gets activated for whatever their particular use case, their particular benefit they are seeking for is. Yet then in turn, in many cases, there's a complementary or another industry sector that actually, if they come to play just as well, the combined value is actually, more than 1 + 1. And the V2X space is really interesting because there you have so many different kinds of entities and different sectors that come to play, and it's a good example of it when you think of it that people in the automotive space, their business operates in a certain cycle. Then you look at some of these innovative solutions that can be brought out using data and software very quickly. That in turn operates in a very different cycle. And then how do you put these together? How do you make these different sectors all benefit in a sensible manner? There's a lot of issues there. So you saw that I avoided your question entirely because I didn't want to put anyone on the spot there.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking, there's probably unexploited value in many sectors, and that's where we need to get, right?
I would think every sector. There's no doubt about that. There's so much data out there, and I think Chris said it well earlier here that we have so much data, but the utilization of that data is limited.
Darren, there's a question come in directed in your way around kind of the fragmentation of roads authorities, so it's local authorities, and their ability to be able to think strategically and long term about the potential changes that come with connected and automated mobility. So I wonder, is there a way through Convex and through greater sharing of strategies and data, we can start to create that strategic vision across a fragmented landscape?
Yes, hopefully. I think this is the situation we have to deal with. We are seeing the emergence of larger subnational transport bodies. Obviously, TfWM is a great example of that. That's not happening across the whole of the country, and it probably never will. So we will always have the situation where we have not only a great fragmentation of local authorities, but a great fragmentation in capabilities. You have to remember that local authorities in England range from TfL with a population of 9 million to Rutland with a population of about 60,000. So there's a huge range of capability, a huge range of resource out there. The thing we have to do is we have to make services like Convex, like the services that we're building nationally, like the National Access Point and the Bus Open Data Service. We have to make those as frictionless as possible for people to use. We have to certainly for public bodies, lower the level of entry to the lowest point we can to get people to use this. But again, to go back to a point I made earlier, We also have to be very clearly, have a very clear story about what's in it for local authorities. Why should they participate in this? What are the end benefits of this? What will it allow them to do better, more cheaply? What new services will it allow them to provide? We have to narrate this kind of technology in a way that works for them, and a way that works for local authorities that are balancing very limited budgets that involve investing money in transport services, investing money in libraries, closing old people's homes. These are some of the decisions that local authorities have to make. If we want transport investment, if we want technology to be usable across local authorities, we have to make it very clear what the benefit of that is and how it fits into that wider, very sort of distressed picture that place that local government is in terms of investment. So I would say the challenge here is to do that, is to make this compelling, make services like this a compelling part of people's day jobs.
Paul, Darren mentioned there some of the other platforms for data sharing that exist, and I think Convex is ambitious, but it's not going to do everything for everyone. It's got to be connected to other sources of data. In the questions, there's been talk about the London data store. Where do you see data sharing working well, with lessons that can be learnt in developing Convex further?
Oh, that's a tricky question, Nick. Thank you for wanting to ask me. Look, I, in a sense, I would say that I think Convex is a beacon already, right? The London data store started from a different place, and the success of the London data store was based around a level of transparency and openness that was really leading at that time. By the way, I'm not suggesting that it's grown dusty. I mean, it's still evolving, but that was a particular initiative at that time, which was very unusual, if not unique, and really showed the way. There were challenges, though, with the London data store model. I don't want to wash anyone's dirty linen in public, but there have been situations where access to data is simply not possible on open terms, not for security reasons, not for any of those other reasons, but because to make data available, you have to address some of the quality issues that a couple of other questioners have mentioned, and quality costs money. And if you offer it for free, there isn't a stream of revenue that can enable you to deliver that level of service. So I think the Open Data Institute talk about a spectrum of openness, and I'm sure many of the people on the call will be familiar with the ideas of as open as possible, or a shareable by default, which is say not necessarily open but shareable. And I think we need that slightly more sophisticated view that says we need both the London data store and marketplaces like Convex, which can raise revenues to invest in creating new access to new data, or raising quality standards. And on top of that, we need help from regulation and from industry bodies to talk about standards and guidelines to enable more people to start offering data. Because another lesson I think we can learn from Convex is no single data source does the job. It's about correlating data. Yes. That's where the magic happens. And so the journey, in a sense, never ends. And we need to see this spectrum of different approaches to fill out the landscape. So I've no idea whether that even got near to answering the question, Nick, but it's the best I can do at no notice.
No, that's brilliant, Paul. Thank you. And sadly, although I've got dozens more even harder questions for you, we have to wrap up there, and please, rest assured that those of you who've submitted questions via the Q&A, we will attempt to address those in follow-up after the end of the call. But yeah, so sadly time is racing away from us. There's so much more to talk about, but thanks very much to all of you on the panel for that discussion. For me, summarizing today's event, I think it's so exciting to see how far Convex has come from the initial idea to a fully functioning commercial platform ready to deliver on that vision we've all been discussing for safer, cleaner and better mobility. Of course, as we've said, there's much work to do, and the platform is only as good as the data it holds and the use cases it enables. But I think the examples we've seen earlier give us much cause for optimism on how Convex can really contribute to this decade of transport data. And if there are ways you think Convex might help you, whether you're a startup, a multinational, or from government or in academia, I'm sure the team will be only too pleased to hear from you. But to close the event, I'd like to thank Chordant for inviting me to host proceedings today, and in particular, Nicola, who's behind the scenes managing all the logistics for us. Thank you all for attending, and I'd like to bring the president of Chordant, Mika, back to the stage to close proceedings. Thank you, Mika.
Thank you, Nick. So, first of all, I trust that that you found this this event intriguing and useful for everybody. We at Chordant, we do believe that there's a tremendous value in data and in the outcomes we can derive from data. And with that in mind, we at Chordant are really excited about bringing the Convex service now live, and we look forward to working with many of you for cleaner, safer, and better mobility services and solutions. I also want to thank on Chordant's behalf Lord Grimstone for kindly addressing the event, as well as Project Convex partners, all the speakers and panelists of this event. So thank you everybody. Please do contact us at Chordant for any further questions or more information. We'll be happy to help. Again, thank you all and for participating. And with that, we will now close the event.